Automated text messages can be a great way to reach your customers, whether it is for order status updates, appointment reminders, or something else. And today I will show you two methods to manage these messages and send them out from the tools you already use, whether that is spreadsheets or Airtable. So in our first example, imagine that we want to send out a simple one-time event reminder to a list of people, and we can add them into a spreadsheet formatted like this, with the status to send for any row that we want to actually send out. Then whenever any new row is added, this automation will be triggered in the background, and it will send out the messages, and it will set the status accordingly, whether the message was successful or error. In this case, one of them was error because I intentionally added an invalid phone number. And I can now verify that I actually got the number, I actually got the text, because this is the phone number that I control. So if I go to the phone link, I can verify that I have actually received this text message through the Twilio API, and I'm using a free account for this, so it adds this disclaimer to the beginning. In the second part of this video, I will walk through a slightly more advanced use case where we have different customers and orders in an Airtable base, and we would send out a text message whenever the order status changes for any of them. So I can change this from confirmed to shipped. And we also want to make sure that we also track these notifications, so we can see when they were sent out and if they were successfully sent or not. And here we also have this n8n workflow that would automatically run in the background if that change happened, and then it sends us this message, which includes what status it was changed to, as well as the customer name pulled from Airtable. And at the end, it again sets the message status to success. If you want to follow along, then both of these templates are available for free. You can get the link in the description. And once you got to the template page, you can click on the use for free and import into your existing cloud workspace or self-hosted workspace, or get started for free with a new cloud account. So now, if you have copied this template into your own n8n account, or you created your n8n account from the template, then we can get to actually setting this up. You can see that I have added this little setup guide within the template, as I usually do. I will also include the link to the video, this video, once that is published, and I will probably also a little bit extend this by the time you can see it. But for the most part, we can already go through the steps of configuring this. So firstly, we do need to have our own copy of this Google Sheets. You cannot keep it, even though this is shared with anyone with the link, but you cannot keep using this one, because you need to have write access to it. You need to be able to write to it. So to get your own version, click on make a copy in the file, and you can get your copy. And once you got your copy that you have write access to, make sure to copy the URL of this Google Sheet, and that you will need to put back into the template where I will show it. So to start configuring this with our own Google Sheet, we need to add into the URL here, and also in, oh, that's not that URL. So this link we need to add here and here, and then also separately we need to go to the config and also add it here. So this one is the trigger which will basically always monitor our Google Sheet, and whenever there is a change, whenever there is a new line added here, that specifically one that has to send status, then it will go ahead with the steps and send it out. And yes, that's it for this. And the other step that we need to take is setting up our credentials. So we need to make sure that we grant access to n8n to manage our Google Sheets, and also to manage our Twilio account, which I will also show how to create. So Google Sheets is actually very simple, because if we are on the cloud version, then all we need to do is go here and create new credential, and then we have this sign in with Google button, and we just need to choose our Google account, and that's it. So then we can already work with Google Sheets that are under our account, or we have access to them. If it is a self-hosted account, then I suggest going into the docs here and going through what the official documentation is saying about credentials, because then we do need to follow quite a few extra steps to get authenticated, but for cloud, this is really out of the box. So once we have Google Sheets out of the way, then the other credential that we need will be Twilio. So if we don't yet have a Twilio account, then that is also something we need to sign up. As a demo, this is working with the free account, but basically, as I showed before, you will have these disclaimers sent from your Twilio account. However, what's quite nice about Twilio is that you are only paying for what you use. So if you go to their pricing page and select your country, you can find out how many text messages you can send for a certain budget, or how much it will cost to send a certain amount of text messages. So if we, with a quick mental math, in this case, if we would send out 1,000 outbound text messages, then we would be paying around $8. So yes, I think it's quite affordable in general. And if we want to create an account, then of course we need to go to this start for free button, and we will need to go through the registration process. So here I went through the registration process and the initial onboarding form, which really just took a few minutes. And once we did that, we can go to just on the main dashboard that we were already redirected to. We can find our account info, and here we need all three things to authenticate us into n8n. We will need this account SID, we will need the token, and we will need the Twilio phone number. So make sure to keep these in an accessible place. And within the workflow, we should find our Twilio node where we can add our account. So here I have already added the account, but I will show adding a new credential. So with the auth type, we can keep it in the default one, and for the SID and the token, I will add what we have seen on the console. So once we added those, all we need to do is click on save, and we can see that into our node, this was already added. This does not yet perform any tests, so we will need to do that. And the other thing that we need to do is go to this config node in the beginning, which is where we set our initial variables. that we can then reuse across the workflow, so we don't have to write them every single time. This is why I like to have a config node in the beginning. So we also have this from number edit here that you can replace with your own from number. And after you have got a paid plan with Twilio with a phone number, then you can just replace it with that one. But for now, this is the trial phone number that Twilio automatically assigned us on signing up. So that's all we need to set this up. We only have the Google Sheets and the Twilio account. We don't have anything else external. So once we have this, we can already test, and we can do that by execute workflow to get a sample record from the Google Sheet, or we can set this into an active state, or we can set this workflow to active, and in this case it will start to do the monitoring of the Google Sheet. We can set the poll time here, which I keep the default every minute, which means that it's going to check every minute for any changes in here, and if anything is added into the to send status, then it will automatically run and send that text out. We can within the workflow go to executions and just look at the history of what happened. So if we are facing issues or we want to make sure that everything works as we expected, then we can review what happened in each step here. So that's it for setting this up. I will do a little bit of deeper dive into the nodes of this to show you how it works and how you can build something like this for yourself. If you're not interested in that part, then feel free to go to the next section where I will show the setup with Airtable and how to get that order notification system also working. So now let's quickly go through just what kind of nodes we have and how does this workflow work. I have already mentioned that we are watching for changes in the monitor Google Sheet first node, which is polling trigger node, and you can go to Google Sheets into the in the node selection, go down to triggers and find this on row updated or on row added or updated, which is what we use here. And to make sure that we are only doing anything on the status, we have the columns to watch here, so it's not going to be triggered every time. And then we have the config, which I have also mentioned, which is an edit field node, and I always like to keep a config in the beginning, especially because not every plan has access to global variables, so this is a good way to keep these configurations within a template, and then from any other node we can reference it. Then we have an if, which is basically checking if the status is this to send status, so we're only going to the next steps if it is. Then we have this one, which changes the status to sending ... And the purpose of this is to make sure that it's not that it wouldn't stay in the to send, so we can always see if for any reason the sending would be interrupted, if the workflow would be interrupted, then we would always have this status, and we would know that something started to happen there but it didn't finish, and making sure that if for any reason there would be concurrent executions, then nothing would be sent twice. So I think it's a very good best practice to first change a status before actually doing the action, and only then going on the action and then set the status based on the outcome of that action, just so we're making sure that nothing will be processed twice, as it would be quite embarrassing and also potentially causing other issues if we send some messages multiple times. So we're just making sure that that's not going to happen. And then we have a simple merge config, which takes the data from the last two nodes and merges them together, so we're keeping everything from before. And then instead of doing these within the Twilio node, I sometimes would make a separate edit fields to just separate our logic from the actual action, and we can execute only until this part when testing, and only then go to the step that actually takes the action, which is here just taking the very simple action, because let me get some testing data. So now we can see, if we go into this, that because I have only run the workflow until this point using this execute step, and also I have changed this to send, which was now automatically changed to sending. So if we do it like this, then this part really won't have any logic, because already the message, the to and the from, is prepared, and we can do that part of the logic here, that we are doing this replacement, that if there is any first name in the template, then it will be replaced with the actual first name. And yes, if we would want multiple replacements, then we could add another replace like this and replace the first name with any other field we're interested in. So if we want to add multiple personalization options to our text messages, then we can quite easily do that as well. I will show actually one. So if we would also want last name, then we can like this double this replace at the end of this row. Also we can move them into separate lines to make this clearer. And now it's going to also replace any last names. We don't have the last name column, but if we would add it, then now it will work without any issue. And then after we have sent out the text message, we are basically just looking at whether that particular node had any error, which will happen if the status code sent back by Twilio is not a success status code, which happens, for example, on invalid phone numbers or any other request issues. And I think this is also a pretty important step. So in case we have some issues with Twilio, in case our phone numbers are invalid, in case we don't have any balance, then we would be aware and we can track that from our sheets. So the n8n workflow can, for the most part, stay as some kind of a black box, and only the person managing these text messages from the Google Sheets sort of a front end would be able to see that that there was an issue with some of the messages. This doesn't track all the way to receiving, so this is only tracking if there is an issue right at the sending moment, which Twilio would track in this case. but it's still going to catch us most of the errors. So we would be aware if something did not go out, and then we can correct the issue and manually set the status to send. So in that case, we will be able to send it out again. So yes, that's it for this workflow. And I will now continue with the Airtable version of the same. The Airtable version of this is quite similar to what Sheets was. Basically, the only difference is that we are writing stuff back to Airtable, but there are some extra things within the base itself and one automation, so I will show those. If you go to the link, this is also a fully public base, so we can click on copy and make our own version of it. And then we can, similarly to how we did before, we will need to set the URL of our base and table by just going to those tables and by just going to the base and copying the URL we're currently on. So to use this, we need the URL of the status notifications table, because that is the one that our trigger will be watching. So here we can add that to both the table and the base URL. The base will also be fine. We can also go by ID if that's preferred, but to the config we will need to separately add all the table URLs and the phone from number, which is the same as which is obtained the same way as I showed in the beginning. And also the Twilio, for the Twilio account, we just need the same credential. And we also do need to be logged into our Airtable. So we would need to go through this this process of logging in if we did not do that before. So yes, the Airtable base has a little bit more complexity than what we have seen in the Google Sheets, because here we have this orders table, and I have kept it quite minimal. So there are no products, there are no prices, nothing like that. But we can imagine that in a real scenario, we would probably have those as well, or maybe we are only syncing this data that we absolutely need to Airtable, and our products and prices and everything else is managed separately. So yes, we practically have a status table, a status field here, and a customer, link to a customer, and through the link we have a phone number for each customer, which we can use to send these messages out. And so the one table that our n8n really communicates with is this status notification one. So the only difference is that whenever status changes in the orders, then we would have an automation that automatically generates these status notification records. And then within that, we have the same logic for message status, exactly as we had before. So yes, the way how I have built this is that only that particular part of the logic and the automation is done in n8n that we need to do in n8n, and everything else is in Airtable. And so for this one, we have an automation which within Airtable. So Airtable's automation system is very limited compared to what n8n can do, and that is why I very often couple these two together and connect my n8n to an or client n8ns to an Airtable to set up more advanced scenarios. But for it is better to use the Airtable built-in automation in some cases. For example, for update triggers, it is useful to use this because this way it is going to trigger instantly, and we don't have to pull it constantly the same way as we do in an n8n. And for that we have the configuration where we have set the table orders, and we are watching one field, which is the status. So we are making sure that we're only triggering this automation if the status changes. And then we create our status notification in the second step, where we connect it with the order via the record ID of the order, and we set the order status to status. And so from this, we can go to this table, and we can see that we have both an order status and a message status to make sure to differentiate between the two. And the order status is what we have used, is what we have changed the order to. And then we also have this name that we are getting as a lookup field from the order. So you can see that this is a lookup, and this way we are able to pass all this data. And then we have this prepare SMS content, which will get our the data from. I can again run a test scenario. So once I run it and got some test data or execution data, we can see what variables we are including in the message. So from the last message, we are getting all these fields, which are coming from directly the Airtable, from the Airtable table. And for example, to get the first name, we have this value, and we can just drop it here within our message template. So here I am only sending a specific message template, so there is no flexibility in terms of that, but we can use any of the variables within Airtable that we have received and add it as part of our message for personalization. So yes, and apart from that, again, it does the same thing. We can see that if anything started, it again goes to sending, and then it can go to success and error based on the outcome of our message. So this was how to send out automated text messages from Google Sheets or Airtable. If you have any questions at all about the build, then ask them in the comment section, and I will be there and answer them. And you can also find the link in the description that you can book a call with us, so we can help you build automations like this for your unique business needs. See you in the next one.